Hello and welcome to Equine Voices. My name is Ronnie and I'm your host for today's podcast. I am so excited to have the lovely opportunity to invite Kerri Lake onto this session. Kerri is an animal communicator. However, there's a lot more to it than just that first line. She also has her own podcast called Compass Conversations. I'm not very good at reading off paper. She's an author of Listen to a Horse and also Spiritually Gifted. They have a new venture coming up, and we're going to hear lots more about that as we go through the interview. So I'll shortly bring Kerri in. She can introduce herself a little bit more better than I did just then. If you have any questions, then please feel free to message. Okay, we'll get to the questions once the interview gets into flow, if that's okay. Let us know if the sound quality and everything is going as should be, and we are on Facebook. Be greatly appreciated. So without further ado, I'll slow down now. Here's Kerri. Welcome, Kerri. Would you like to take the floor and explain a little bit about yourself, please?
Thank you so much, Ronnie. I'm really happy to be here. Super excited for our conversation. Taking it a little bit more. So it is sort of the $10,000 question of what is it that you do, Kerri? I don't have a title per se other than just human, like functioning human. And my relationship with animal communication goes back to infancy, really. Being 3 years old, 4 years old, and my parents telling me, "No, Kerri, the dog is not talking to you. And the grass is not singing to you, Kerri. The apple trees are not telling jokes." And to me, it was just always very true. It was more true than human interactions, really, that I could feel non-human life moving through me, knowing who I am, acknowledging me, smiling, singing. But I didn't have human language for it. I didn't have vocabulary. So all I really knew how to say is, the dog says this, and the trees are cracking jokes, because I would sit next to the tree and giggle, right? And so when you're a kid and you only have this much vocabulary, that you try to find a way to express it, right? And so I went through childhood trying to figure out how I could be everything and see and feel everything that I do, while being told I was lying and I was wrong when I knew I wasn't. And it led to a lifetime of paying attention, I think, in a really unique way. Always paying attention to the animals, but more than paying attention to them, I was paying attention to what it felt like to be next to them, how it felt to be me next to the dogs and the horses and the cats and the trees, and how different that was, how different the feeling was when a human walked in the room. So, around ages 11 and 12, you have a lot more vocabulary and a lot more different ways to relate to your own experiences. And so I started paying attention to what emotions feel like in the body. I started paying attention to what my skin felt like. When my dad walks through the room and then my mom walks through the room, everything was changing. And then I would look over at the dog or look at the horses if they were picking me up from the barn. And I would be like, without words, do you guys notice that? And they would go, yeah. And I would just listen before words to how the animals relate to people, right? And then I would feel the human side and how do humans relate to animals? What changes in humans when an animal walks in the room? But all of this was happening before language, before I had words for it. So rationalizing that I'm a human, just like everybody, it just made sense to me that absolutely everybody has these abilities. And it was a mystery that nobody was talking about it. Like, why do we react to our emotions rather than just point at them and marvel and go, whoa, did you notice that change? Did you notice, like, wow, somebody said they're sick, and then all of the air went wobble, 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 wobble. Did you notice that? And instead, people would say that they're sick and draw all their energy down and back and guard and push away. And it was such a mystery to me. So, what this capacity to communicate with animals, and what I later learned is called animal communication, for me was a way, it was an amazing doorway for me to start acknowledging the ability and the awareness that I had, and put it in a direction that can be of service. And then at some point, I couldn't deny the rest of everything that I was also aware of, and so had to find a way to speak to consciousness beyond the what we tend to address in animal communication, and the way the conversations go. I just had to expand into more of myself beyond that. So that's kind of a long introduction around this idea of animal communication that I can genuinely say is part of the foundation of absolutely everything I share, because the animals kept me alive. The animals are the ones that kept saying, yeah, keep going. Yeah, no, yeah, we see you. Go, go, go. But it's grown vastly beyond that.
Thank you, Kerri. That was a lovely explanation. Because if you tell people you're an animal communicator, everybody has their own view of what that may be, and some people think it's like communicating body language, and for me, I always say I don't study the body language. It's not that sort of communication, so I'm not like a trainer. And as I'm listening to you, it was there all the time. It was always there for you, and it was very natural. I remember when I first started, or before then actually, I used to belong to it was called a circle. It was just a meditation circle. It was just friends meeting, and it was like doing little meditations. And I would be sat there thinking, oh, I never get anything, but I would get things. And then it's when you speak and say what you received, then you get either confirmation, clarity, or not, depending on the case. So intuition and guidance is always there, central, and what comes from that are many branches from the tree. So animal communication, healers, telepathy, if that's the word you want to call it, it all sort of branches off, but it all comes back to the same source, the same stream, however you want to say that. Yeah, it's fascinating. It took a long time for me to not to acknowledge, because I'm better at speaking to strangers. I don't have a problem with connecting to strangers, but I did have confidence issues with myself, saying, "What right have I got to say that this is what I do?" at the beginning, and I would sort of say what I did like this, I do this. But I also knew deep down it wasn't just that was a doorway into something else. And it's a doorway to connect to people. And often people will connect with somebody if they think they're doing it for the horse or the dog or the cat, whereas they wouldn't do it for themselves. And I absolutely trust and know that is one of the reasons. But as you develop and change and evolve, that changes with you, and there are many other things that comes from that. So it's not just that's what I am. There's a whole globe that people aren't aware of, but it's there. Does that make sense?
It makes perfect sense to me. So the words that I might offer around that is that, like you're saying, there's always the central essence, the core essence of who I am, that is creator consciousness. And for a while, maybe the most complementary expression is animal communication. And that is what I have to share, to complement the world, to be of service, which at the same time reflects back to me to help me see more of who I am, right? It is a mutual benevolence when we let ourselves, when we have the courage to have our thinker become aware of this whole other type of information and intellect that is nonlinear, that we call intuitive. You know, our direct connection with creation before it becomes a concept or a word. All of that communication is happening. The more we explore and play with it ourselves, like you were saying, to just speak it. Once you play with it, and you might be worried, maybe it doesn't mean anything, like, who am I to say this? But the more you touch it and give it your breath, that excuse me, that is the way to discover self-validation, because you feel the harmonic resonance in your own cells when the words that you're saying, when the consciousness that you're expressing carries no conflict with self, no conflict with being, no conflict with the universal harmony. It's that feeling that we might call flow, or my friend Chris Adderson calls it hum. It's when the the expressed presence is contributing to the overall creation of harmony. That is our natural way of being. And I think part of what lends to, at least this is what I've been seeing, the way it makes sense to me, is when people are shy of their intuition, or, you know, like many of us, even sometimes I catch myself doing it, like, oh no, Kerri, stop it. You don't know this. No, come on, Kerri. Like, no, you're probably, no, you just want that. You know, all of the doubty things, you know, it happens. It's always an option. Doubt is always an option if you want it. I'll just say that much, right? But you don't have to go there. But I think a lot of people do go there because we're so taught that intellect is what matters. It takes linear intellect to move on the planet, to move through the physical world. And you look at our education, you look at society. I mean, this is nothing new to the people who are going to be part of this conversation, right? That it takes a linear intellect to navigate the world. And the suggestion that intuition cannot be trusted only comes when you are trying to make intuition look and function like intellect. When we leave the space that the intuitive nature feels different, functions differently, relates to data and information differently than a linear intellect, it's like two different languages. And one of them has been well developed in our walk on the planet. The other, for most of us, you know, even those of us who were born very sensitive, we find a way to exercise that intuitive side. But in a world that functions this way, we find, you know, we have to find the little cracks in order to shine the light and have it reflected back to us, that we can feel the harmonic that says, ah, yes, that. But there's a lot of re-educating the thinker to say yes to all the intellect, and yet leave some space for what you haven't asked yet. Leave some space for what you don't know how to ask for. Leave some space for what also exists, but requires a different approach to data than this thing called intellect that creates repeatability, provability, explainability, all of those things. So when we open to what we don't know and help the intellect recognize that's actually where we want to be, in what we don't know, it's actually safe. Just feeling vulnerable doesn't mean there's any danger. Having a intimate relationship with I don't know, that is where life is actually happening.
Thank you. You're so eloquent how you explain words. I'm just listening. That was yeah. I was gonna add something. So when I used to get messages for people, that would be a feel. So there'd always be a feel, and then a word or a name would pop in, either the horse or a person, because it's not always about animals. And the person would pop in, and it would normally be when I'm driving, whereas now it's not so much. It's anytime. It's literally anywhere, any place, anytime. That's an advert, isn't it? So the feel would come, and I would know that there's something coming, and then I would think of the person, and it's almost like there's you're turning a hose pipe on, and there's a water waiting to flow, and it's there. You know it's there, but until you turn the tap on, the flow can't come through. So I knew the words were going to come because the feel was there. So I would either text, or now it's easier just to record. So I would start the first word with the feel, whatever comes through, and then the rest would flow. And when you're in that state and you are in that process, there's no judgment, there's no right or wrong, there's no highs or lows. It's just a very peaceful place to be. So I don't have to ask. I don't have to say, oh, is that correct? Because I know as it's flowing, it's correct. Afterwards, I'm like, whoa, okay. But at that time, because the feel and the resonance change and the tone changes, it's all flowing and feeling. But to start with, if you don't acknowledge that first feel, that first, okay, I know something's coming, and you think, because you go, is that my imagination or is it not? Because that I would ask that at first. I'm saying, oh, I've driven past this spot before. I got a message there before. It's it's my head thinking, and I would sort of ignore it. But my calling card is 3 times. If I get it 3 times in a row, it's pay attention, please. This needs to go out now. So then I would pull over or stop what I'm doing, and then I would send a message. I'm smiling because there I can feel a smile coming from my energy, and it's like, but you don't have to do that now. Can you remember? I don't have to have the 3 calling cards because it's there. So as I'm speaking, I'm getting the confirmation for myself, for me, about my own development, my own progress, and the feel is there, and then the words come. But it's almost like another aspect to me, like a mother with a child, saying, remember, and giving you encouragement and giving you that nice feel without agenda. So yeah, sorry, I rambled on a little bit there.
No, I love it. I think it's so helpful when we share our own awareness of our own process. I think the more different people share their different processes, maybe that's going to give people permission to have their own process. And I love what you just said about, your mind and your personality was saying, I wait for 3, and that's how I know. But the smile says you do already know. You knew when the first one came, right? And so it's an example of making friends between the heart and the mind, because the mind will say, well, I can doubt myself pretty good here, so I'm just going to doubt myself for a while. And the heart can say, that's totally fine. Doubt yourself until you get 3 times, because the message is still going to show up. It's still going to find you because you asked. And that's the benevolence. So, whether it's I wait, it reminds me of a client friend of mine who was in the UK. She lives down in Kent. And when I was out there teaching a few years ago, she's this amazing magical human, but she would sit there and say, I don't get any, this is rubbish. I am not intuitive. I can't do any of this. All right. I said, all right, so challenge the universe. She said, fine. I'll believe it if I see stars. That's it. That's the only way. And she's thinking there's no chance this is going to happen, right? So after our day, we go we go to the pub or something, and we go sit down, and she chooses a booth, sits down, slides in, and the decoration right on the wall right there was this little display of stars. And she's like, no, no, no. Deny, deny, deny. And she put out like 5 or 6 more challenges, which of course were all met with total joy from her higher consciousness and the universe entirely, and the benevolence of her being. And she still challenges the universe. It's adorable. But the take-home message on that is, it's okay. It's okay for the intellect to doubt, right? Because it's part of our relationship. It's part of our feedback system to all of creation, to say, well, here's how it's working right now. What else would you bring me? Show me more of who I am. Show me who I am so that it's unmissable. And like you're saying, when you acknowledge that very first feeling, you feel something coming. You feel something coming with that essence that's absent of conflict. Those are my words for it. When I know it matches true, is like, it's not like I would die on this hill for this bit of information. It's not like that. It's just, you could doubt me all you want, but you're not going to convince me I'm not feeling this, right? And when it's that absent of conflict, if I have a job in that moment, it's just to acknowledge it, exactly what you just said, just to say, okay, I see you. So show me what comes next. And then the mind might come in and say, no, that could be my imagination. Right there is my next opportunity to befriend the mind, to befriend the doubt, and say, okay, cool, there's some doubt there. I acknowledge it. I'm not going to buy in, but I will acknowledge it. And just watch what happens when you start acknowledging the doubt, saying, oh, that's just my imagination, and all the things that it says. Watch what happens when from the heart you just turn and you say, I hear you. Thank you for keeping me on track. Let's open up and see what else is here. So you open a dialogue between the intellectual information approach and the intuitive information approach. And it creates a gentleness, at least in my experience. This is what I have been finding and kind of demanding, because I was tired of things being harsh and scary. So I just started getting curious how this all happens in gentleness. And that meant I had to learn what gentle felt like, which I thought I knew, but I turned out I didn't know. I thought I knew, but had to actually have the experience of gentleness to relax into an evolution.
That's beautiful. That was so beautiful. I was smiling when you said about proof. If I ask for, I don't ask very often now, but if I ask for proof, it's usually because I'm in a bit of a defiant place, probably, or I know the answer and I don't get it. I'm going, right, okay, show me this then. And I'm looking, and I know it. You could say I'm self-prophesizing, I know it won't come because I know the answer. I'm asking to give me proof when I actually know what the answer is. If I genuinely would like something and I'm excited, then I do. I get it. So I stopped asking because if I'm asking, it's usually because I know the answer.
I love
And it's
that.
usually something that you maybe need to do and you're procrastinating or, yeah. Yeah. So it's like having a talk with, I think of my intuition and me, two people sometimes. It's like, and I'll say, I used to say, again, I don't say this now, I'll say, come on, you know what I'm like. I've got to see it there before I know what you're talking about. Show me what it is. And
Yes.
I'd want it like that. Otherwise, I'm not going to see it. I don't say that now, but I used to say, come on.
I love that. See, that to me, that's like conversations with God, right? I'm the one in the physical, and this is the intellect. This is the mind speaking right now, right? I'm the one in the physical. I'm the one bumping through this place. So bring it to me in a way that I can't miss it. So I love that conversation that you had, and any subsequent conversation, it can be so playful.
Mm.
So in 1995, I was tired of being on the planet. And I was tired of people not being kind to each other. And I felt like my existence didn't matter at all because I was still surrounded by people who were not being kind. And I had given myself this this responsibility and mantle that my job in the whole universe is to show people that it's okay to be nice to each other. And so watching people be not nice to each other, I judged that I had failed. And I didn't want to be around anymore trying to do this because I judged that I just was a complete waste. Like this is unnecessary. Like I'm done. I'm done. It's not going to work. And so I literally just laid down and stopped participating in life because I knew we don't have to stay, right? We can go anytime and it's okay. There's a lot of reasons that we don't, but at that point I was just, screw it, I'm out, peace out. And took myself right to that choice point, that place that people call the void, that is black, not because it's not empty, it's black because it's everything. And in that space, I was shown a little candle that was lit with a beautiful little flame surrounded by this amazing opalescence, like iridescent opalescence. And it was like for real, the most beautiful thing I had ever encountered, ever. And I was in this place of total relief from the weight and the density of the body and the physical. And I saw this, I'm like, oh, yes, this is what I know. And from over here, two essences came to greet me as one. There were no bodies or anything. It was just these essences. And it was like, hello and welcome. And there's laughter and joy. And like if there were bodies, it would have been dancing and touching and hugging and greetings and familiarity and the deepest intimacy. And after the original greeting and all this laughter, it was like they said, okay, look, we know why you're here. We get it. And if you're ready to blow out the flame, just blow. The love is the same no matter what you do. And they were gesturing over at this candle, the most beautiful thing I had ever seen. And I realized, oh my God, the most beautiful thing I had ever seen, that's me. That's a being. Whoa. And it's like, in a movie, it would have, the screen would go, whoa. And they said, before you decide, though, can we remind you why you took a body in the first place? And held in all of this love, I'm like, yes, please remind me, why are we doing this? And I was given, I guess you call it a download. I would just call it a complete review of all of life, all the way back to separation from one. And why would we do that in the first place? And then why differentiation? Why all this creativity? How does it work? How do the feedback systems work? How is information working? Why physical? Why planets? Why electromagnetism? All the way to this planet, species, interrelationships, why humanity? Why free will? Why answering all of these questions with a sense that's so complete that it all seems obvious and benevolent. Then it went further. Why this family? Why this body? Why female? Why this color hair? Why this journey? What's it all about? Why be involved with people who are not nice? Why? And then, but with such a benevolence, not like going to school, not like that at all, but this like complete wonder, like, look at how it all happens. Look how it all works. This interacts with this, interacts with this. And being shown all of this with tremendous intimate humor, to where they finally brought me to this point of choosing to stop living. And then they start teasing me, like poking me and saying, and you wanted to die because a boy wasn't nice to you. Look at, this is how the universe works. And you did this because a boy wasn't nice to you. And they were, I mean, raucous laughter. It would have been side-splitting laughter for how seriously humanity takes itself. And it's one of the things that we're working through, to discover that lightness of heart and how seriously we take ourselves, and whether or not that's still, like, how's that working for you? So they top this off by reminding me that being in a body on this planet is really the only place you can get chocolate chip cookies and hug ponies. So, it's up to you, Kerri, whatever you want to do. And of course, I'm like, okay, stop. I will go back. And right back into my body. And, many other experiences from that. But all of that to say, especially on this journey of reclaiming our intuitive capacity and welcoming our essence, our uniqueness into expression through our physical body. There's a reason why the thousands of years of teaching point to joy and enjoyment, and that manifestation and all of this is about that feeling of enjoyment, because that is what creation feels like. And everything else is there for your entertainment to buy into or not. And the more we entertain these perspectives, and at least, again, I might be completely caught up in the atrocities of the world and what that person said and what that person's going to do if they sit in that chair, and everything that's going to go haywire. But no matter how caught up the intellect might be in those things, we have this ability to leave some space open for what else is going on. We have this ability to leave some space open for how does the love of creation already have this well in hand? Because everybody is on a journey, whether they know it or not. Everybody is on the journey home to the heart. And there are a lot of diversities on this planet, a lot of diverse journeys happening at the same time on this planet. So I can take myself really, really seriously, but it helps to leave a little bit of space open for chocolate chip cookies and ponies. And I'm going to add croissants to that, because that's where I'm going when we're finished here, is to the croissant shop. I'm just saying.
I love cake. I love croissants. I love anything sweet. I've got a sweet tooth. That is like music to my ears, girl. Music to my ears.
Yes. See, that is the point of being on this planet, is in that enjoyment. And the other stuff happens too. So we help
Yeah,
each other through it, right? Whether
that's
it's through animal communication, through healing, all the vast varieties of healing work,
mm,
um, through what we create, through being a nice person, through being true to ourselves, living for that absence of conflict and sharing it with others, right? And the more
yes.
you help the thinker recognize what that feels like, that's where it takes on its own life, and you start to watch your higher consciousness form your life right in front of you.
That was beautiful, Kerri. Absolutely beautiful. Thank you. Um, as you were talking, so I'm just going to say this anyway because it's about sharing. As you were talking, so when I say I can see, I don't see like I can see. I see that tree outside, but I'm aware that as you were talking, there was these little thin threads coming in, but also going out, and they were like, I'm describing them as little silver threads. But it's almost like neuron transmitter signals from your brain, the little sparks, little pathways. And it was all flowing and it was beautiful. And what I was feeling was from that, going out to the connections, as you were talking, the energy was shared through that to the another energy. Now, that might sound um, a little bit out there, but that's what I saw, and I felt that to share that. Right, what we're going to do now is let's talk about your podcast. Okay,
Oh, okay.
so Compass Conversation. So you have lots of amazing guests on there. How did that start? Oh, before we go there, before I forget, I want to say a big thank you to Holly because she was the lovely lady that connected us. She sent me an email saying, would I consider having Kerri Lake on my podcast? Like, oh, crikey. So I said, yes, of course, yes, if she thinks it resonates with her. So that's how we connected. So thank you, Holly, who's watching now. Thank you so much for that introduction. And again, if anybody's got any questions, please pop the questions up. Kerri, you should be able to see any questions. I don't know if you can. So
I see
pop
the
your questions up and then we can get to them. And if Kerri sees something that she wants to answer straight away, she can do that. So let's talk about your podcast.
Okay, thank
How
you.
did that start? Where did you get the name? And there,
Oh,
off you go.
great story. So it started in 2022, and we have Robin and Warwick Schiller to thank for bringing amazing people together through their podcast and through the first Journey On podcast summit in San Antonio. That event, for the people that were there, they know that the floor was waving. We were in between dimensions for that event. The energy was so beautiful. And afterward, the community of presenters um, almost unanimously expressed that they all wanted to stay in touch and learning with and from one another. Um, there was such a theme at that podcast of being a student of life. And after the podcast, there was so much going on and everybody connecting and then wondering how is this going to happen. And Robin and Warwick had so much on their plate, and I thought, well, everybody wants to stay together. I wonder how I can help with that. And another theme was, even at the end of each day, a lot of the people attending the podcast stayed at the same hotel, and there were a lot of amazing conversations happening at breakfast, and there were a lot of amazing conversations happening at dinner after the programming of the day. And so another facet came in, as it's really kind of true that some of the best conversations happen at the end of the clinic day, when the clinicians are just sitting around and chatting amongst themselves, creating the next evolutionary steps of their own work with their peers. So I'm like, wow, that sounds like a good idea. How can we share those kinds of conversations with the greater community? And just just throwing it out there, like those wonderings, when to me, I throw the wonderings out there and they come right back with that feeling like you're talking about, like, there it is. It all came back, and the compass conversations literally just dropped in. Call it that. Here's the picture. Ask Mark to create some music, because Mark Rashid is an amazing guitarist, and so ask Mark for some music. Just the checklist of needs presented right there, and I just said yes, I'll do it, and started putting it all together. So it's, to me, it's not about having guests on the podcast. It's a collaboration. There's a core group of people participating in the conversations, and that group is starting now to expand, not just in the equestrian community. That's definitely the foundation of it, but we're starting to have people that are not at all in the equestrian community, but what is common is being a perpetual student of life, having the interest and the inspiration and the capacity to show up curious rather than teachery, and it recognizing that when we share our curiosities, that's some of the greatest education, because it leaves people free to learn what's there for them to learn, rather than telling people what they should be learning. And to me, that's an evolution of education as a whole that I want to be a part of. So that's the short story of how it all came into being.
Exciting, exciting. So without going into details, but the essence of, I had a message for somebody a few days ago, and that was very much part of the message is people will be attracted to certain lights, to certain people, because they feel something from that. It makes them feel good. They can see there's something different within them. And when they interact with that person, they look at that as if, I would like to have that. I would like to be like that. So it's not about being that person, but something that they emanate.
Mm-hmm.
And the message was very much, you show them how actually it's theirs already, which is what you've just said. So it's within them, not to search externally. Because when we search externally for validation, for somebody to love us, it's external, but it's within. So that essence that you just said, that message is the essence of the message that came through for somebody. And again, that had that most beautiful feel with it. Very serene, just very beautiful. And it was such a nice place to be. So I thought I'd just share that because you mentioned that. So your podcast is amazing, and it's conversations. It's conversations.
Organic conversations. Yeah, we don't even know. There's no topic until we all sit down together. Like, what do we want to play with? And
yes.
then we choose a starting point. I introduce it, and then it's completely organic from there.
And that's the best way. So I'm just going to pop Holly little message. So this is Holly Postlewaite that you know.
Yeah.
If you had one message to transmit to listeners that are new to intuitive knowing and recognizing, what is compared to what our intellect would say? Do you want to read that again? I'm terrible at reading off screen.
Yeah, that's fine. Helping people new to intuitive awareness recognize what is compared to what our intellect might suggest is there. I think that's where she's going with this.
Yeah.
The first thing that I would say is recognize where, first and foremost, before trying to get it right, or be correct. Recognize first and foremost where you're already aware of your intuitive ability. Where is it already happening for you that you might just take for granted, but you can start actually acknowledging? And I'll give you an example. There's a client here in California who she picked up her love of horses later in life, in her late 40s, and has horses now. And she'll go, I don't know what I'm doing. I can't tell when the horse is soft. I can't tell when the horse is happy, and I can't feel anything, right? So I asked her, so what kind of work do you do? And she's done landscape architecture for her whole career. And I said, okay, so when you look out at that hill and you say, oh, there's something wrong with those plants, there's, that one is in the wrong place. Are you taking out a sextant? Are you taking out survey equipment to measure with a ruler to know that this is in the right place and that's in the wrong place? She says, no, I just kind of turn my head and I can just feel it's just not right. I'm like, exactly. That right there is where your intuitive capacity, your sense, your feel is already alive and well. So when you notice it happening, tune into what that feels like. And just to know what it feels like. We don't have to solve a problem. We don't have to be correct. We don't have to put it in a slide deck to give a presentation. We don't have to prove it to anybody. That's all that linear intellect. Intuitive awareness just is the one that gives you information that says, and that when we tell our mind to recognize that feeling, it gives validation according to the mind. Oh, that's a thing? Yes, that's a thing. That feeling you have no words for. Just let your mind go, aha, I noticed that. Okay, well, I'm available for more of that. And it can be that simple, especially for super thinky people who want the spreadsheet, who want proof. Watching your own experience becomes the proof you're looking for. But we have to remember, linear intellect talks about being correct. Intuitive awareness is not interested in correct. Intuitive awareness is interested in recognizing the experience and then relaxing to see how it relates. The difference between correctness and relating. But it can all start with helping the thinker recognize where I am already aware of my feels. And I mean, we could go into the difference of feeling and emotion, and this is why I've done the online courses, is to go into all of that. But that's the simplicity of it, is recognize where it's already functioning and then relax and be curious what else it might show you. And it's a beautiful place to start.
Thank you. That was a really good example about the gardening. Yeah, you know, if you're looking at a plant or a tree, you just do something with it and you don't think, why did I do that? Why did I move that plant? You just do it. Yeah, that was
and when you start noticing, we all have this ability. It might be atrophied in people. They might not be familiar, but we all have this ability to like go back and look at what was I feeling that had me move the planter from here to there. Like rewind to just before that. What was the feeling? And maybe it was a thought. Okay, what did that thought feel like? Right? So it's just helping, I call it the mayor of Thinky Town, start to actually realize where the information can be found, where intuitive information can be found. And it is through various dimensions of feel.
This should be taught in schools, but that leads me on to your new venture that you're very excited about. So would you like to, I'll let you explain what it's called and what exactly it is.
Thank you. okay, this is where I'm just going to take a breath and go slow so I don't launch into my own nerd universe.
You can be as nerdy as you like, Kerri. It's
Oh
fine.
gosh, thanks. So, um, for a long time, people have asked me, are you going to start a nonprofit? Are you going to create things for kids? Or how can we help parents um, help their kids keep their intuition alive? And for a long time, I've had a vision of something that can do that, but it just was clunky and not happening. But through this adventure with Compass, that idea came back up of, you know, why not do a nonprofit? And I'm like, how do you make a nonprofit out of a podcast? I couldn't see it. And so a dear friend of mine, Joelle Dunlap, who has the Square Peg Foundation, um, I was telling her about it. And I'm like, yeah, people are saying I should do a nonprofit. She's like, yeah, do it. Go. I'm like, oh, how am I supposed to do that? She goes, just do it. Write a mission statement, write a vision statement. So with her encouragement, I'm like, all right, well, so I went to write a mission and vision around the podcast and I just couldn't make it happen. I'd send her, I would send her drafts and she's like, no, try again. So I did. But what I had to do is go back before Compass, before Generation of Harmony, which is my personal business, and go, what is the through line? What is the thing that's always been there? And it has very, very dear to my heart, very related to my own childhood, is this curiosity of how can we help children develop in a way where they don't have to recover from childhood, where they don't have to recover their intuition because they've never lost it. So with that came the Intuitive Learning Foundation. And we are taking steps to create an official nonprofit called the Intuitive Learning Foundation that has a mission. I can't repeat, I don't have my elevator pitch, but the mission is through programs and connections and empowering things to guide people to remember their intuitive capacity and recognize how vital it is in every aspect of daily life. The vision ultimately is just to inspire humanity to integrate, to weave intuition and intellect so that our innovation is created in a way that honors all of life on the planet and not just what humans think they need for human society. Because when we reconnect with our intuitive side, all of a sudden we can feel the rest of life, and it might change how we use the data that we discover. So um, so yeah, what we're going to put together are programs for parents to find their own self-validation, to rest in their heart, because their presence has an enormous effect on their kids. And from that place, more kids are already growing up knowing about yoga, knowing about mindfulness. But how can we help parents be in a position where they can recognize intuitive inspiration and where imagination is actually communicating who the kid is? How can we help adults recognize that kind of uncontrollable expression so that they don't inadvertently squash a child who's just trying to say, I think this is me? How do we be available for that? Montessori is already about that, and Waldorf is all about that. But there's just this vision of how can we trickle a different perspective, a different way to relate to familiar things into something more mainstream. So the idea with this is to have a very simple structure, but lots and lots of collaboration with people who have different ways of teaching, of pointing in the same direction, because there's so many people and teachers pointing in the same direction right now. this community in the equestrian world. And the relationship with horses is completely leading the way back to the heart and helping people recognize, oh, what I feel is actually communication. And that might be the purest communication. So, how do I become aware of that? And the horses obviously show up and go, hi, there you are. Let us help you. And, building from that foundation, how simple can we offer really powerful, kind, benevolent awareness, so that, at least for in my case, we can offer people tools so that for 10 seconds at a time, they can give their mind a break, take their mind off the hook for having to do it all themselves and everything that creates anxiety. Take a 10-second break and watch your body change. And you notice that change. All of a sudden, that's a way to welcome in all of this other intuitive information rather than grinding on life in that familiar way of bigger, better, faster, more, got to get it done. It's all on me. If I don't do it, the universe crumbles, right? So all of that to say, the Intuitive Learning Foundation really wants to be kind of a beacon, kind of that diamond that you and I were talking about before we started recording, that whatever light comes toward it, it refracts in a way that somebody else can see themselves and know, A, you're not alone. B, you have this innate technology. Intuition is factory installed. It's just how can we start to weave in side by side with our conventional education a very simple and accessible intuitive education. So it's not one or the other. It's a guidance for how they are meant to complement one another, recognizing that intellect uses information this way, intuition uses information this way, and together they give us an incredibly full picture of who we are and how we create on the planet.
Wow, that was wonderful explanation. I sound like I'm repeating myself. That was a wonderful explanation. That was a wonderful explanation. Well, it is actually. Sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
there's a big irony in my life where this idea of home, home was never a house for me. It wasn't a family for me. It was always the connection that I felt with animals is who I am when I felt animals. And so I started calling home is the place of no words. And yet how ironic it is how many words I use in a day to describe the place of no words.
but that's what we have. Hence this. It's
Yes.
words. But the words, each word has a vibration, has a frequency, and it's what that carries. Yeah. Sorry, I'm listening, but I can't translate that. So, harmony. Thank you. Harmony. So if I said to you, I'm aware. So again, this might sound a bit, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to say it. It's almost like we're not in a goldfish bowl and we're being watched, because that's not how it is. But it's the sense of pride, excitement, interest from, I was going to say the external, but it's not, because it's in, but what flows through. It's like when I described earlier, I talked to my intuition, the human. I sometimes like interact with the two different people. I'm not sure I'm explaining this correctly. Let's just see where this is going. Okay. Right. Okay. Like the diamond. Thank you. Like the diamond, there are many sides. There are many views. Each one is precious. Each one reflects back what you see, what you need at the time. There may be distorted views, but within that view is still beauty, knowledge, information that flows. There is no right, there is no wrong. There is just what you feel. Fear is information. Anxiety is information. Once you understand that this is not who you are, that this is just information for you to process, for you to understand, you can move through that. You can allow. There is much beauty in this world, but it's not always seen because it's not to be seen. It's to be felt, it's to be understood, it's to be aware. Each one is precious. However small, however large, each one contributes to the collective, to the whole. If you could see how amazing you are, how beautiful you are, how precious you are, right where you are at this moment in time, there are no changes that are needed, just for you to connect and allow your true essence to flow. Thank you. So, okay. I'm just seeing if anything else is okay. Yeah, I find it lovely because it's like being when you go to the cinema and there's a movie and you're watching it. I feel like we're in the movie and we're being watched, but it's not. It's hard to explain, or maybe it isn't.
I think you're doing a beautiful job explaining it. It feels very true, and I know the sense that you're speaking of.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, right. Okay, so with your new venture, where are you now and what do you need? Okay, I'm being guided to ask, what do you need? Because this is a platform that can help you in your next process, in your next steps.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for that opening. Where we are now is raising funds to file the paperwork, to put the technology in place, to put all of the administrative pieces in place so that this has a solid foundation. We have an amazing web designer, like blows my mind, who showed up to volunteer for that position or for that contribution. We have a board, an amazing board of directors. We have so much in place, including a multinational team of volunteers from India, Croatia, Hungary, Switzerland, UK, Australia, United States, working together just because they're inspired by all of this. And people who come from all walks of life, not necessarily equine related or animal related. People who have experience working in conventional education, but who can feel the value of offering a really simple approach to reconnect with that factory installed intuition and make it relevant in everyday life. So we have an abundant beginning, and what we need is dollars to keep doing the conventional part of it. You know, it does take dollars, And then collaborators. We want to connect with people who have that purity of service in their heart and understand and are really drawn to collaborating for the good of the whole. Like as we come together, not in competition, but in collaboration, we can reach so many more people, because there's nothing, like, again, we're not telling anybody what to learn. We're offering, hey, this is an option, and people will pick it up when it touches their heart. So over the next 2 months is when we are planning on filing all the paperwork, getting everything done. The moment the paperwork is filed, so if I'm going to put a number out, we need $500 would be amazing right now, because that would kick everything off. And then once we have that in place, I mentioned Joelle and the Square Peg Foundation. They are supporting us so that the donations are tax deductible, like as soon as possible. And from there, we just get to create and listen and create and listen and create and listen and create. So I think if anything, if anybody watching this wants to go to we have a temporary webpage right now that's compassconversations.com/ILF-campaign. You can read the mission statement, the vision statement, and if you can subscribe just to be on the mailing list and, be on the journey with us, donate if you want to, and just see what we're up to. I think the more people just include themselves in that conversation, it's just going to breathe so much life into it. Because this whole thing has a life of its own already. Like, it might look like Kerri's project, but Kerri is a servant to whatever this project is, and the people who show up,
And it's international, isn't it? It's not just for the USA, it's international. So
yes,
anybody that contributes is going to benefit on a global. Yeah.
I don't know how it couldn't be. I mean, there are people waking up everywhere. It just really, how many ways can we just say, yes, you are that brilliant? What you just brought through. How many ways can we just say, what Ronnie just said? Yes, that. Like, to me, that's what it is. How many ways can we say yes to who you are? Knowing that once you're acknowledged, your creator essence is going to start unfolding. And the more you feel that absence of conflict with yourself, that's actually where creation comes from. That's what tells the outside world how to organize itself to complement you, to delight you, to surprise you, right? To hold you in the most gentle grace, especially when things are intense. And the more often we say yes to each other on that level, the more evident it becomes to each of us in our own journey, to where intensity and gentleness, same thing. Let's go. Let's just go. Keep going, keep going, keep going. So yes, definitely, like, how can we be of service is really what it comes down to. How many ways can we help people recognize how it feels to be themselves? And if even for 10 seconds at a time, then you get hijacked, and then you go 10 seconds at a time again, and then you get hijacked, whatever. You take the 10 seconds and they build on each other, not like 1 + 1 is 2. They build on each other exponentially, like 1 + 1 is 11. But you feel it. You know it because you feel it. And that's where self-validation comes from. So, it's helping people recognize that feel and emotion are two different words for a reason. They're different things. And when we have a new relationship with feel, we become available to that information that you were describing, that you were just bringing through, right? Whether it's fear, good, what's going on? Whether it's despair, excellent, what's going on? And this is the whole planet. Everyone on the planet is on a journey right now to wake up to this, to wake up to a different way to relate to life as we know it. Life is going to keep happening. It's going to keep being what it is. There will be good actors and bad actors. But what matters is how we relate to it. And more we can support each other to relate as the love that we are, knowing sometimes that judgment is going to come in like a strong wind. Okay, how do I want to relate to that? Do I want to give myself away? Or do I want to just see it and go, whoo, that's strong. That judgment has a lot of bad body odor. Okay, so I'm going to go over here, have a croissant, connect with my friends, and find a different perspective that lets me relate to it without getting sucked in. And the only way to do it is to do it. The only one who can do it is myself. And so we have 3 silos or 3 aspects to the Intuitive Learning Foundation. One is change one heart, change the world. And that heart is my own. The second is animal consciousness, and speaks to the space within which we all connect, regardless of species. That is natural for us. I call it being unspeciated, where we are all common. That's where we can meet and communicate. And the third is young creators, and that's very much about the overarching journey that can serve people 6 and 7 generations down the line, so they never have to recover from having their intuitive ability squashed. Right? I want to go back 1 second with animal consciousness. I'm not sure if you're aware of the movement of using AI to craft two-way communication with animals. Are you aware of that? Yeah. There are organizations well in development using decades of sound research, of audio research, audio recordings, and giving the data to AI to understand a version that they're calling language, the language of sperm whales, of monkeys, of bats, of different birds, different species. But within that, AI doesn't have a way to address feel. AI doesn't have a way to relate to presence, to what is nonverbal, what is not even body language, to simply presence and the expression of here's how it feels to be me. And so one of the things I'm hoping the Intuitive Learning Foundation can contribute is an education that parallels artificial intelligence approach to communication, that says, while we're working on that externalized technology, let's also bring awareness to our innate technology, because it might change how we relate to the data we gather if we're aware of the part of ourselves that is already connected and listening to all of life. So that's a passion of mine, is not to say AI is good or bad or right or wrong or should or shouldn't be happening, but to bring in this other part of the conversation that says when humans are aware of their innate technology, that might have an effect on how we create externalized technology. So anyway, that's the nerd part where yeah, I'm just going to breathe.
You relax, Kerri, you relax. I'm just going to see if anybody wants to ask any questions, because there's quite a few viewers. Thank you so much to everybody that's turned up. I'm so grateful, and I can see, as far as I know, that we're still on Facebook, so that's good, and YouTube. If anybody's got any questions, if you want to just pop them down now, because we're coming up to 1 hour and 15, and I don't want to take too much of Kerri's time, but we'll keep talking for a little while longer. Okay, we'll just wait. Sometimes there's a little bit delay when questions come through. I'm just going to pop this on that Paige actually popped on earlier. So Paige Lockton says, thank you for this perspective on being a collective of learners rather than the experts. It makes it all seem more accessible to me from there. You are very, very welcome. Okay.
Thank you, Paige.
Thank you very much. So Timothy, I'll let you read that one, Kerri.
You differentiated feeling from emotion. Is feel a way of expressing an idea of spiritual awareness you have also referred to as your senses? Yes, yes, yes. That's a nice way to talk about it. It can, there's different ways to articulate it in the way that I see it. So emotion is an energy in motion, right? There's something moving, and it maybe pushes water out my face. Maybe it makes me breathe differently. Maybe it makes my body get tense or drop on the floor or jump around. Emotion is the energy that prompts, the energy in motion that prompts that movement. Feel and senses are what tell you energy is moving. It's feel and senses are related to the physicality and the mechanism by which our body says, hey, something's happening. The words emotion and feelings get interchanged because our body produces sensations or feelings to tell us there is sadness in the room. There is anger moving through. There's frustration, resentment, pride. Before those became words, there was a feeling. And look at a scenario where, a friend walks up to you and you say, hey, how are you doing? And they say, oh, I'm fine. I'm great. But everything in your body is like sadness. And if you let your face do what you feel, it's something different than what their facade is telling you. Okay. Emotion is present. It might be mine, it might be theirs, but it is my senses and my feel that lets me become aware of the emotion that is present. Right? So when we start articulating these things in a different way, it starts to reveal that I have a mind. I am not a mind, but I have a mind. I have a body. Body's an expression of me. So is the mind. It's an expression of my essence. But who I am is not the body. The body is an expression of. Who I am is the one capable of watching all of this happen. So when I give my mind the job of watching the communication center, which is the body, then the body will say, well, here's a feel. Oh, the senses say, ding, 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 something is moving. I'm going to give you a feeling so that you have something to relate to that says, the stove is hot, don't touch it, for example, right? Or that says, there is a communication presenting. If you'd like to make space for it, we will articulate it for you. And that's sometimes that pressure that tells us there's a communicate. Oh, there it is. Okay, I'm welcoming it. Thank you. And this is where each of our unique capacity with our intuition, we discover for ourselves how it feels to recognize, oh, there's a communication. I'm going to make some space and let that be articulated through my imagination center so that I have something to relate to. Our imagination is key to relating intuitively. So it's kind of ironic, but when people say, I'm not sure if it's my imagination or if it's real, it's both. But the real question would be, is it the ego taking charge of the imagination, or is it my essence and my heart coming through my imagination? They feel very different. It's a very different feeling. It's like, Ronnie, if we said, okay, go ahead and make up that communication you just received. Go.
I couldn't do it.
You can't do it. It's not a thing, right? And so, when that doubt comes, I love what Jim Masterson says. Doubt the doubt. When the doubt comes, make it prove itself. Like, all right, go ahead. If I'm making this up, go ahead and make it up again. I'm watching. Go ahead. No, really, go ahead. It's okay. It can't happen because that's not how it works. So that's why I say start putting your awareness on where you already feel your intuition, your senses, providing you data and information from your wholeness, because it's going to feel different than when your mind says, oh my God, I'm going to die because I didn't make my bed this morning and my boss is going to find out and I'm going to get fired. And then I'm, whatever the cascade of thoughts is. But that's when you start giving the mind a different way to relate to these familiar words. It can open some space. It can help clarify a lot of stuff and open some space to recognize that place in me that is absent of conflict, that just is self. I am, that beingness that everybody's pointing to through thousands of years of spiritual teaching.
So I think that's answered your question, Timothy.
I hope so.
Yeah, definitely answered your question. He's also mentions, I'm just going to pop this up. So this is for the benefit of the audio, because this will be made into an audio afterwards. So that's why I'm reading it out. AI doesn't make me nervous because AI, hang on, the rest of it, the machine cannot practice, surrender, or learn more of humility. And that's how I feel. I think if you're... the fear is because you're not understanding, or you're not listening to that. You're listening to the external or what it could be. And we magnify it, we make it bigger than it is. So if you come from a neutral, as you can, place without the emotional attachment, it can go that way or that way. It can be an amazing thing, but the input is from us. So if we stay neutral and input, it will be different from somebody that's in a fear-based input. We need this because we need to protect ourselves. We need to do this. That has a different feel with it. So that's my view on that one.
Totally. Yes.
Yeah. So thank you for your question. That's yes, thank you very, very much. Right, Kerri, is there anything else you'd like to just to add before we sort of wrap this up? I can so I'm doing this podcast in my dear friend's house, and they're doing me a curry tonight, and I can smell it and I can hear pots going. So I'm feeling hungry. So that's my cue.
Very good.
Start
I understand.
wrapping this up because my stomach is rumbling.
And curry sounds amazing.
He's a good cook. Giles is an amazing cook.
I guess really thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to share. Thank you for cultivating a community where this kind of conversation can happen and I can just nerd out in this way. It really means a lot. The one other thing I would like to share with people is coming up, starting in October, we're offering a year-long program called Activating and Facilitating Feel. And it's being offered with just a special way to participate called priceless pricing. There's a $50 registration fee, but each month it's like a pay what you can, because we wanted to make this information available to people around the world, regardless of, currency exchange, regardless of financial situation. And I have some amazing friends who came up with this model called priceless pricing that includes, part of the discussion is really visiting and highlighting the priceless nature of the work we're doing together. You can't put money on it. You can't quantify the value with dollars. And everybody's in their own unique situation. So this program really is priceless. It will be, it's geared toward teachers, trainers, instructors, and mentors to give people a toolkit for helping others have a new relationship and be empowered through their intuitive ability and their capacity to feel, because I think that can make the biggest ripple out into the world. But anybody is welcome whose heart feels drawn to it. And if you go to the courses.kerrilake.com page, you can read about it, read about priceless pricing. That you have to be registered at the beginning of the year, and every month we just visit how valuable this is at this point for you. And if you drop off, you drop off. But for those that want to keep going, it's built to be a transformational time. That's everything that we've been talking about, helping people have a new relationship with who they truly are, and then discover how they can best express themselves through whatever they're doing in the world. That's really what my heart is about, is how can I take whatever this is and help you be more of you. So anyway, I hope people will check that out too, because I think it's going to be really amazing.
Okay, so what I'll do is I have some of your links anyway, but what I'll do is add any more links that you want to share and put them at the end of the podcast. So it goes out as an audio, but I'll put all the links on there as I normally do, and then I can tag some more on the YouTube video. So so this will be, once this live is ended, it will still be available on YouTube. It will be down permanently. And then once I've edited it, it'll go out as an audio, and then people can listen to it, and I can take out the bits that are not relevant. But it's all relevant, she says. It's all relevant.
Relevant. Yes. Like, wow, what would you take out? I don't even know, because you were brilliant, and just so much good stuff.
At the beginning of I have to smile, because at the beginning of a podcast, I just want to get the guest on, and the words, I'm terrible. I can't read. I think my first ever podcast, I tried to read, and it was like this, and I thought, I'm not having that. That's not flowing. Thank you so much thank you to Holly for introducing us, and thank you so much for interacting and connecting, and for coming on the podcast. It's been a pleasure. And I find when I'm editing, because I'm listening, but I'm also watching. So I'm listening when I'm editing. I listen with a different ear, and I hear lots more. And also I listen to it when I've done that, because I get from that too, which is lovely. You are welcome back anytime. It's an open invitation.
Thank you.
If people have questions, they can, again, I'll send links, and you can contact Kerri yourself if there's something you want to ask her, or myself. Please feel free. If there's something you don't understand, again, reach out. This might not be for everybody, but it's about stepping into your own knowing. And even if you think, I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about, if it's flowing through you, it's maybe needed to come out, to see if you're happy just to say what feels. It doesn't have to make sense, as long as you don't offend anybody, and you're doing this from the heart, and you're not trying to tell somebody something to do, what to do. As Kerri said earlier, you're just allowing yourself to express yourself, and that's what the start is. You have to play with it. It's like a muscle. If you don't use it, you can't experience it. You can't think, oh, I'm not sure about that. I get that. That's what that was last time. Okay, I'm learning. So you have to play with it. It's a muscle. You have to develop it. And if you're with people that don't mind whether you talk nonsense or not, that's fine, because you can practice. And I'll be quiet now.
No, now you talk for an hour and a half.
No. I can smell food. I know where my mind's going, and it's not flowing that way. It's flowing that way now. So once again, thank you so much. Would you like to just say parting few words? I'll pop you out, and if you don't mind just hanging on for a second before you go.
Oh yes, I'm honored. for the opportunity to share. And there's words that I don't have words for yet. It still blows me away. The opportunities that I get to do exactly what you just said, to talk nonsense, and maybe sometimes somebody understands it. But I do it for all those reasons because I can't not do it, because it's here to be expressed. And I've learned that when something comes and it's so obvious and I don't hear anybody else talking about it, then it's mine to express. And like you said, the more you play with it and you hear yourself expressing what feels true to you, fear becomes irrelevant, because the sense of wholeness really takes over. And that's why we're here, is to live in that wholeness. So thank you, Ronnie, for all of your work and expression in the world.
You're very, very welcome, and thank you. Okay, I'll pop you out, Kerri. So see you in a minute. Wow, what an amazing lady. That has been a real pleasure. And it's funny, I haven't done a podcast for a few months, so I was a little bit nervous. I'm fine once I get on. It's just the beginning bit. Thank you to everybody that's joined us. That means the world to myself and my guests. And it's about sharing. So it's not about telling you what to do and this is right and this is wrong. It's about sharing experiences, and we don't all have to agree with each other. Find out what is your truth and what's your knowledge, and be kind to yourself as well as being kind to others. Be kind to yourself first and be patient with yourself. It's not about having rainbows and wings on all the time. We're experiencing life. You can get cross, you can get angry, you can get frustrated. Just recognize that, and just be kind to yourself and allow whatever needs to come through. So on that note, thank you so much. I'm really excited to get this out for others to listen to. Any questions, again, just get in touch. You know how it works. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. I'm going to go and have a curry now. Take care and bye for now. Bye.